Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's great to see this turnout, and thank you to H. Cola for continuing to sponsor this forum, which is so important to the community. I first came here in 1996 to work for the Apalachicola Times, and that meant I met hundreds and hundreds of different people in different walks of life, from fishermen to beekeepers to wildfire crews to small business people. And then I bought a home the next year, and a few years after that, we bought a home for my mother, who's here, who now lives here. So now this is home for me. It has been home for 24 years. I love Apalachicola, but in recent years, I've been more and more worried about what's happening. I'm seeing senior citizens who can't pay their water bills, who are on fixed incomes, who literally have nowhere to turn when those water bills go up. I'm seeing more and more local people who feel that this is not even their hometown anymore when they can't find a place to live. So that worries me, and when I found out the extent of the city's financial problem, that's why I decided to run for mayor, because it's a very serious financial problem. After I worked for the Apalachicola Times, a few years later, I started working for the Franklin County Oyster and Seafood Task Force. That meant I represented the whole seafood industry, not just here in Florida, but up in Washington, D.C., when we had a huge battle with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration where they tried to ban raw oysters throughout the whole Gulf. I represented our industry. And that gave me connections, not just in the county commission, but in the state legislature up in Washington and other places. So I've learned a lot about the whole county and the city in those years. But when I came back and started to look at detail in the financial situation we're in, I was just stunned to find that we're $806,000 in default on a state loan. So that's one of my priorities, to pay off that default so that we can move forward and address many other problems. Thank you.
Hello, thank you guys for all coming out tonight. My name is Amy Hersey, and I want to be the next mayor of Apalachicola. I was born and raised here in Apalachicola to Buddy and Louise Rowland, who are a local part of the seafood industry. They raised 5 kids successfully off of our seafood industry, and my daddy grew up teaching me the value of hard work and community service. My daddy always said, if you don't like the way things are going, it's your job to change it. I took that message to heart last August during the budget hearing when I realized that citizens were going to have to make a choice between food or their water bill. That's a choice that no one in our city should have to make. That very night, I decided to run for mayor and be the change I wanted to see in my city. I'm married to Matthew Hersey, and we have 3 kids that attend Franklin County schools. Levi is a senior, Lauren is a sophomore, and CJ is 8th grade. I've worked in vacation rentals, the hospitality industry, and as a teacher at the Apalachicola Bay Charter School. My plan for our community is an audit. We can't move forward unless we know where we've made mistakes in the past so that we do not repeat that same pattern. Our water and sewer rates, we have to have a better plan. This is not a one-size-fits-all, and our sewer user fee is that. Sewer user fee should be based on usage and not just a flat rate. Fiscal responsibility. Our budget is our tax money. Where is it being spent, and are we using it responsibly? Transparency in government. We all need transparency and accountability. So as an elected official, I will be accountable to you, the voter. I will meet the needs of everyone in our community and not just a few.
Good afternoon. My name is Valentina Webb, and I am a candidate for mayor of the city of Apalachicola. I'd like to express my thanks to H. Cola for making this forum possible. My thanks also to you, family, friends, and neighbors, for your time and your attention. Apalachicola is at a critical point. We are transitioning from a local economy centered on the seafood industry to a local economy centered on tourism. We are transitioning from a fragile and historically unstable system of city financial administration administration to one of professional, forward-leaning, competent management. And finally, we are also transitioning to a city government open to all the citizens. A city government in which decisions are apparent and made with the help of public input. Why am I offering myself as a candidate for the mayor of Apalachicola? My family has lived in this city on the hill for 5 generations. Within my living memory, my grandfather worked for the city of Apalachicola, and my other grandfather was a deputy sheriff with the Franklin County Sheriff's Department. My mother worked 32 long years in the public school system. My husband, Thomas Webb, is a deputy sheriff, and we raised our family here and founded our church here. Whether it's distributing faith-filled boxes for college students and the elderly, or providing community Thanksgiving, offering feast and fellowship, organizing Christmas gifts, coats, and toys. Service to this community is in my DNA. While there are important policy positions that divide the distinguished candidates, positions and issues that I hope we will discuss tonight, the ultimate answer I would suggest lies both in the depth and the breadth of my experience.
Let's switch that mic out, please. The one on the end, let's see if it works. All right, can you test that one for me? Did he switch him out? Can we just get a quick mic check?
Mic check, can I reclaim my time?
I think we gave you all of your time. Okay, we're going to move into questions. We're going to, again, rotate in order. We're going to begin in alphabetical order with Mr. Begos answering first. Each candidate will answer each question, and then Amy, you will go next, and Val, you will go next, answering first. Okay? So the first question to the candidates for mayor of the city of Apalachicola: what are your plans to bring economic development to the hillside community of Apalachicola?
Thank you. That's a great question, and I think a prime way we can do that is use the CRA money properly. That stands for Community Redevelopment Agency, and it's all been going to salaries. It should be a fund that would be perhaps over $100,000 a year that should go, I think, to the Hill community and to the seafood industry, because the historic downtown, while it's beautiful and important, it's already looking pretty beautiful. I mean, there's some needs of trash cleanup, but I don't think the Hill community has gotten its fair share of CRA money. And I've researched that, and actually it's happened all over the country and all over the state, where these things are set up to help communities that need redevelopment, and then the money goes for other things like public relations and salaries. So I think we can use that CRA money, a large portion of it, for the Hill community every year. That's a recurring fund.
I also agree with using the CRA funds. We get county funds for our CRA, but we are also supposed to get city funds for our CRA. That has not happened in the 4 years that our CRA has been created. We can use those funds to help bring development to our hillside. We also can make it a little easier for people to be able to own and operate their own business. Right now, we have an issue with food trucks. Food trucks have always been in our C2 district. We're having an issue with food trucks being allowed in our community. This is not something that we should be discussing. It shouldn't be why we can't do it, but how can we make that happen and make it happen appropriately? We need growth that fits our community. We do not need to make our community fit the growth.
My plans for the CRA district here on the Hill. I do believe that was the question, right, Tammy?
Question is, how do you plan to bring economic development to the hillside area of Apalachicola?
Number one, I would place an African American on that board, and not on an African American. It would be a Hispanic to equally represent this community. Number two, I would look at the CRA district here on the Hill and see how could we develop it, and who would develop it any investors here within our own community. I know we have the skill set. I know we have the property here to do it, and we will do it.
Okay, so housekeeping issue, we're gonna hold the mics a little bit further from our mouths, okay? Just a little bit so that we can understand what you're saying, okay? Just to speak a little bit clearer, just hold it a little bit further from your mouth. So this question goes to Ms. Hersey first. What are the 3 most pressing issues that face Apalachicola in your opinion, and what would you do first to ensure success?
I think our 3 biggest issues is our financial crisis, our water and sewer rates, and our use of our CRA funds. My first would be an audit. We need to know where our money's been and how we're going to make our financial decisions successful from here on out. Accountability, we have to have accountability to where that money's being spent. Our CRA, do we need a paid director? At this point, we can't afford a paid director. If you look at communities around us of our size, they do not have a paid director. That would free up quite a bit of money in our CRA budget. We also can use our CRA funds in an appropriate manner.
Repeat the question, please.
The question is, what are your 3 most pressing issues facing Apalachicola, and what would you do first to ensure success?
My goal is the mayor. Open government, effective government. Transparency. What I mean by transparency is expand the city commission meetings to twice a month, and also have public input that would precede the vote. Next thing I would do, an interactive city website compatible with a handheld device. Accountability falls right on open government. I will hold city employees accountable to do their job and expect you to hold me accountable to do my job. Effective government. We need experienced, trained, professional city management. We have had the experience of no city manager in the past. So I would recommend that we do continue to keep experienced, trained city managers.
For me, the first priority is dealing with our debt, which is $806,000 and $806,023 as of Friday. I've already been communicating with the Department of Environmental Protection, just as a citizen, about what we can do on that debt. So I think possibly we could sell the downtown vacant fire station, possibly sell the downtown city hall if we get a good price with historic protections. And as soon as we pay off that debt, then DEP is open to renegotiating the whole loan, possibly. Then we have some negotiating, leverage with them. But until we pay off that default, and it's a default that we're 18 months behind on, we can't do anything. The next 2 things, I would focus on affordable housing because we have vacant lots right now that we could start to work with developers. And the 3rd thing would be transparency in government. I think we have to restore trust in our local government.
Thank you. This question goes to Ms. Webb first. I'm trying to combine questions as much as I can. Can you tell us what we can expect within your first 100 days of service?
My first 100 days of service, what you can expect is that we will continue to pay down that debt, the water and sewer debt. We're currently not $806,000 in debt. We're $754 in default on payment loans. That number does not accurately deflect the calculated numbers. In September, I do believe we'll have $108,000, which is already in the bank. So we'll be paying on that. We will cut that debt down.
In the first 100 days, I would focus on the debt, and I would respond to Ms. Webb that I got that in writing from DEP on Friday, $806,000. You can go to my Facebook page and see it. I posted the actual document from DEP. That's the number on Friday, 806,000. But beyond that, I would work right away with improving transparency in city government, letting people know more where money had gone in the past, answering people's questions, things like that. And I would also immediately get a certified appraisal of the downtown city hall and the fire station and a few other vacant properties, so we can see what they're really worth, what the market might bear. Obviously, we can't just rush in and take any offer, but we need to get certified appraisals on vacant city property so we know what we could deal with to pay off the loan.
The first 100 days in city government, I think it looks like we have our audit, we know where we're going. An organizational audit will not only let us know where we went wrong in the past, but where we need to go in the future. Again, I would disagree with Mr. Begos. My number for the default debt is $698,000. We've been making quarterly payments of $108,000, and we've been paying $54,000 on our back default debt. So we have been making those payments, but we need to continue to make those payments. We have to get back in the good graces of our city. We need loans, we need grants, and the only way to do that is to pay this default debt down. We can sell property, but we need to look at what we're selling and what we're keeping to rent or lease land, long-term leases. It brings money that comes every month.
Thank you. This question will go to Mr. Begos first. A combination of questions. Whose fault is it that the debt wasn't paid, and should there be accountability? And can the city request that the state come in and do an audit?
I think the responsibility rests with multiple people. First with the mayor and the city commission. Also, I think the city attorney bears a lot of responsibility for that. But beyond that, there was a consultant, a man I believe named Bill McCartney, who provided advice to the city and suggested to them for years and years that the legislature would just come in and pay off the default. I think that was very, very bad advice because I've heard from people up in Tallahassee, we are the only city in Florida that's completely in default on one of these loans, and both the legislature and DEP do not want to set a precedent where if they bail us out for a default, then every other city is going to, at some point, expect the same thing. As to whether we can expect an audit from DEP, I'm not sure. I think they feel that that's our responsibility, that we could do it, but it's not their responsibility.
I think that our mayor and our commissioners have a responsibility in that default debt, and I do believe that we got some bad advice from several outside sources. We pay consultants a lot of money. Are we getting the best advice, or are they telling us what we want to hear? I think the latter of the two. I think they're telling us what we want to hear. I don't think the state's going to walk in and forgive this loan. I think this is something we're going to have to work towards, and we're going to have to figure out how to pay it as citizens. Do I believe the state needs to come in and do an audit? Well, after 3 years of deteriorating financial conditions, Florida Statute 218 says that the state will come in and do an audit. We had 3 years and the state did not. I personally asked Senator Montford for that audit, and that request was not filled, but I would ask that they come in and did an audit for us.
We can point fingers all day long. Number one, I do think it's our past administration, our past commissioners. I think it was our city clerk. But us as citizens as well, it's our fault. Because we didn't do our homework until it was too late. So we all have to bear the burden. And by bearing the burden, we're all paying the water bill, water and sewer bill.
Thank you. This question goes to Ms. Hersey first. Our library is an important institution in our community. How do you plan to support the librarian's salary?
I do believe that our library is an important asset to our community. That is probably one of the best things that our city does for our children. There's not a lot of programs that we have for our kids, but the library is one of those. I I think the city's gonna have to help with that budget, with the grant that we received. I believe we do have to carry, the librarian that, with the credentials that we have. I also believe that we're gonna have to look for grants outside funding. Maybe we have a fundraiser, but we don't cut the budget on could we raise $50,000 to support our library? Let's have a fundraiser and then say, you know what, we made $25,000, so the city's gonna put in their 25 and the citizens in the community put in 25. And in my world, that's a good solution for all of us.
Repeat the question, please.
Our library is an important institution in our community. How do you plan to support the librarian's salary?
Our library is crucial to this community. How I plan on supporting the librarian's salary. We're currently now qualified for state funding as long as we keep that librarian as a 40-hour position. She does carry the master's degree in library science. And so that's one way we can fund it, continue to fund that library. But let's not lose sight on what activities take place in that library. It's educating our children on every facet now. The ABC schools use the Project Impact Program, and the kids that come from the high school utilizes that library. That library that we have has been utilized by FEMA. That library that we have is utilized every day to assist our seniors with their DCL, their food stamps, and also is utilized by Social Security to assist the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Begos?
Thank you. Just last week, I made a proposal that we split the librarian's salary between the county and city, and I've already gotten feedback from the county that they're going to take that up and consider that, because the county librarian, who also had a master's of library science, left a couple of months ago. So the county was looking at filling that position. That whole idea came from feedback from librarians. It was their suggestion that we could be stronger as both a city and as a county if there was one master librarian who oversaw all three libraries. So I think that could save us money in the city and also save the county some money and build goodwill with county relations. Unfortunately, right now, relations between the city and county are not good. So I would like to find ways where we can work together when we can. But if that doesn't happen, I do agree with the idea of fundraisers. I think we can do fundraisers to help lower the cost to taxpayers.
This question will go to Ms. Webb first. We all agree that there is a high housing crisis. What are your plans to alleviate this crisis?
Affordable housing. We currently have 53 lots owned by the city. They can be used to secure the $800,000 Triumph grant, and then can be sold to who will build affordable housing to sell at the low market value. The city will get the water and sewer tax revenue forever on these lots. Also, the city has 800 acres outside of the city, but owned by the city can attract a light green industry to increase our tax base.
Thank you. Mr. Begos?
I would like to see a combination of selling some of our city lots for affordable housing, but also possibly doing new zoning in some areas where it was just workforce zoning for teachers, police officers, medical personnel, things like that. Other cities have done that. You could do it on as little as one square block. We own an entire block out by 24th or 25th Avenue. And if we did that, then that would protect those people from just the properties being flipped and the prices going up and up. It could be a long-term resource for teachers and police officers, medical workers, and other people in the community. But we do have enough lots and enough land that we can also explore other housing options. And I've been meeting with people who have experience with Habitat for Humanity, with bankers, and with realtors. I think we just need to work harder at it because we have many, many resources.
I believe we have a workforce housing crisis. I have friends who have lived here their whole lives that cannot afford to buy houses. They're having to move away. That is not okay. It's not okay to lose some of our youngest and brightest people because they do not have a place to live. I have a couple of ways we can help fix that. We do own quite a few lots in the R3 district. Right now the city has them appraised at $4,500 a lot. I would venture to say that most people can afford $4,500 and then be able to put something on that, and that would be affordable housing. Also, for our first-year teachers, they come here, they may not want to buy a place to live. They might want to rent and see if this place is suitable for them. So what about some garage apartments or some tiny homes that we maybe can change our land development code just a little bit to be able to allow that to come into our area?
This question will go to Mr. Begos first, and it's a combination of questions again regarding the positions of city manager and CRA director. As mayor, can you do the job of running the city without a city manager? Have you researched what has been accomplished by the city manager, and do you believe it is contributing to our welfare, and why? And the same question for the CRA contributions to the city.
You know, it was interesting during the previous responses that people seem to forget something very important from the other candidates for commission seats. Before we had a city manager, we had a city administrator for decades. So it's not a question of just tossing the city manager and having nothing. It's a question of whether we needed to shift from having a city administrator to a city manager, and I think that was a mistake. Essentially what happened was Lee Mathis was pushed out. We brought in someone new from North Carolina at a higher salary who didn't know our history, who didn't know things here. Clearly, of course, a lot of these problems are not the city manager's fault, but I don't think he's been receptive to the business community here. I don't think he's been open enough, and he's aligned himself too much with the Main Street group. So that's why I feel we could replace the city manager with a part-time auditor, go back to having an administrator, and that yes, I could do that as mayor, make that work.
City manager, do we need one? Possibly. Can we afford one? Absolutely not. So what is our alternative? Our alternative is, do we hire another city administrator? Do we bring somebody in at a lower price? We're going to have to make those hard choices. It's not the fact of, is Ron Nally doing a great job or is he not doing a great job? Is, can we afford for him to do this job? At this point, we cannot. City administrator may be the place to go back to. CRA director, do we need that position? I don't believe so. I believe a city manager could, that the mayor could do that position. That's how it happens in several small towns around us. And after, you need some continuity. So what is it expected of the mayor to do? So the next mayor comes in and knows what's expected of them.
I think it's frivolous for us to think that we do not need a city manager. We need a city manager. We do not need to return down the path that we've been down for decades. That is why we're in the shape that we're in now. So I just really think that's absurd. He's trained, he's certified, he's went to school for that. I went to school to be a correction officer and a police officer, okay? You can't tell me that. You can't tell me about that business. I know it inside out. I've done it for 30 years. No difference but a higher paid professional city manager.
We'll just take that.
We'll just share. How about we just share one mic?
The one on the left.
We just pass the mic.
The second half of that question, do we need a CRA director?
Was pretty much regarding the CRA, yes.
I personally think, yes, we do need a CRA director. Can we afford it? Maybe not. But, however, the current CRA director we have has brought in $400,000 to fix our water issue. The TTHM is in the water. But I'm open to other ideas.
Okay, this question will go to Ms. Hersey first. What are your plans to lower the water bill, at the same time improve the quality of water and pay off the debt for the sewer? I think that question's been asked, but if you want to touch on that part of the question as well.
We have a default loan that we have to pay on. Right now, we owe right at $700,000. There's several ways that we can pay that down. Once we pay that $700,000 off, then we have to look at finishing paying the $3.4 million off. We can kick it down the road and ask for a deferment. We can lower those payments, but at the end of the day, we still owe $3.4 million on a water and sewer system that's 30 years old, and it's not going to last forever. We're going to have to look at making those payments. Now, can we lower the water rate structures? I believe we can. I believe we need to look at that. Also, the sewer user fee, it's a straight $29 for a resident and $93 for a business. Should every resident and every business pay the same? I don't believe so. I believe that should be on a usage basis.
Repeat the question, Tammy.
One, what are your plans to lower the water bill while improving the quality of water? And what are your plans to address the deficit in the water and sewer bill, or the default loan?
I don't think the water bill can be lowered. Have the price of eggs been lowered? Has bread been lowered in the grocery store? We have a collapsing infrastructure. And for that, we can't afford to lower that bill because all of the pipes, the sub pump out by IGA is collapsing. We need a new pump. It's about $12,000. And so there is no way that water bill can be lowered. Was there a second part to that question?
Quality of water, improvements to the quality of the water?
The improvements to the quality of water, you will begin to see that now because we do have the $400,000 grant. And so there are much improvements with the TTMH that's going to take place.
Here's where I disagree with some of the other candidates. I would immediately start to try and restore the senior citizen water discount. Some people on the city commission have said that's not possible. Let me read you something from an email I got by a public records request through DEP. Quote, both Senator Montfort and Representative Beshears have expressed a desire to restore the senior discount for Apalachicola, end quote, as long as it doesn't cost too much. So it is possible. What we need to do is pay off the default, then we'll have support in the legislature and in DEP to at least lower the water rates for seniors. Beyond that, I think the default, which I've been told is $806,000 in writing from DEP on Friday. The only thing we can do to really pay that off is sell some of the buildings and lots. We could chip away with it, $10 or $20 or $50,000 each year, but I think we've got to do it quicker. On water quality, that's going to be a long process. We've got some grants already in the works, but it's going to be years of work to slowly improve the water quality.
Question will go to Ms. Webb first. A combination of questions. Apalachicola Commission meetings for the last several months have been very negative, antagonistic, and not reflective of the meaning of our city name, which means friendly people. A, what would you do to improve the spirit of the meetings by letting us know what your traits on communication and personality strengths and weaknesses you have to bring to the table?
I hope that I could restore the hope and the faith in government in the first place. That's one of my skill sets. The other skill set that I have is the ability to really humanize with people. These are human beings. They are hurting. And that's where the frustration comes from. We can just sit and listen. We can't do much, but we can sit and listen to them and hear them out. And by doing that, proposing that we have 2 meetings a month, one an action and one just a meeting where they express their views and not shut them down.
Mr. Begos.
I understand our current mayor and the commissioners have been under tremendous pressure, so I sympathize with that, with all the pressures they've been under from the water and the sewer and the hurricanes. But we have to just answer questions for people, however long it takes. I don't think it ever helps to, when a person comes before a city meeting, to have them stopped by a police officer from talking just because there was criticism. We have to let our citizens criticize politicians. So if I'm elected mayor and you want to get up in a meeting and tell me that I'm an idiot, that's your First Amendment right.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to issue threats or say derogatory things toward people about, women or minorities or anything else, but you're allowed to say you're angry at the politicians. That's just part of the job. So I think I would let people blow off that steam, but then meet with them one-on-one. And also just improve public records requests and transparency. I think everybody in the community just wants answers. So give them the answers, and that will make it a much calmer and the city will be proud of again.
Thank you. Ms. Hurston?
I agree that there has been building frustrations at the city meetings. I have personally been part of that. I've been told that I was at the wrong meeting and to have a seat, so I understand. And I think what we can do is listen. I mean, most of the time when somebody comes to a meeting, they're not asking for immediate response. They're asking for you to listen and to have compassion on their situation. And that goes a long way. Follow that up with an email, a phone call. Get answers, because that's what everybody wants, transparency in government. We want to know that our city officials are working for us. It would go a long way, and I think it would bring the frustrations at the city meetings down a lot.
Thank you. Last question before we go to the wrap-up, which is an easy question. Do you support making citizens pay a fee or a city permit to remove a dead tree from his or her own property? And that question, Mr. Begos first.
Absolutely not. And I've talked to senior citizens both in the Hill neighborhood and other places recently who are just distraught at having tree limbs or trees over their house that they feel threaten their house. I think there should be a discount for senior citizens where if you need to cut down a tree, maybe it's a $5 fee, but if it's just a dead tree and it's threatening the house, let them cut it down or maybe make a $5 payment. I think that's just a case of putting a fee that just drives people crazy, and we have other ways of raising revenue than burdening people with that.
I agree that you should not have to pay a fee to cut a dead tree off your property. That's a liability for not only you, but for your neighbors, children in your neighborhood. So I agree that that needs to be not a fee at all. However, if you're going to charge a fee to cut a tree, I don't think you necessarily give a senior citizens discount. I think maybe you look more at an income-based discount. We have a lot of senior citizens in our community that we can all agree can afford to pay that fee. We have a lot of single families. We have a lot of people on disability, however, that may not can afford to pay that same fee. So an income-based fee scale is, in my world, a better option than just saying because you're over 65, you can't afford to pay.
I say let's assess the situation first. Let's go out, let's look at that tree and see if that tree is really dead. A lot of times we're gonna say that tree is dead. That tree may not be dead. So I said let's assess the situation. And if that tree is dead, no, I do not support a fee of cutting that tree. I think it should fall back on the burden of the citizen because the tree is on their property. And if it damages something while cutting that tree, damage your property, then it's on you as a citizen. But I do not support a fee after assessing the situation.
We want to thank you for coming tonight. We have questions that we were not able to ask. I'm going to read through them for the candidates so that if you want to mingle afterwards, we want to get you out of here on time. But I want to read through these questions because they were valid concerns of the constituency. They want to know your best comment on Main Street and your main complaint about Main Street. They want to know, if elected, would you have a vision for the city? As far as we can tell, there's no general vision statement for the city of Apalachicola. If you are elected, will you have a vision statement for the city? And how would you go about getting your colleagues and citizens behind a common vision and mission? They also would like to know what in your experience of service to this town qualifies you to be mayor. What is the city's budget, and is it enough to run the city? If yes, what other improvements do you envision? If not, what changes would you implement? What are your plans for our children's future, and as a citizen of this community and this city? We want to remind you in the audience that the city elections are at large, which means you can vote for all of the seats and not just the ones that are in your particular district. Again, we thank you for coming. The candidates at this time are going to prepare 1-minute closing arguments, after which time our President, Eleanor Mount Simmons, is going to come with announcements and acknowledgments, and we are going to let you go. We're going to begin at the right since we began at the left. So we will begin with Ms. Webb for her 1-minute closing, and then we will come back this way.
I'd like to thank H. Cola again for making this forum possible. Also, I'd like to thank my fellow candidates, not for participating, but for articulating clearly the policies they intend to implement if elected. City government is a democracy. At its most fundamental, it's the forums like these that permit voters to make informed decisions between candidates, first on basis of clearly differential policies, recommendations that they propose, and second on the basis of community leadership, experience that they'll bring to the job, which that's my strength, is community leadership. I didn't start this yesterday. I didn't start it 2 days ago, a week ago, a year ago, 20 years ago. I've been in this for the long haul because I am a native. I've been here 55 long years, and I've worked hard within my community. As you learn this evening, there are important differences between us. So when you go to the vote Valentina Webb on September 3rd.
I would just like to say thank you to H. Cola for holding this forum. I think this has been a very informative evening for everyone. I appreciate you guys for all coming out to support us. I would like to say, I understand that community is an important part of who we are and what we are. I was born and raised in it. I've been raising money for kids to go to camp since I was about 10 years old because I wanted my friends to be able to go with me who couldn't afford to go. That's always been my heart. My heart's always been for the less fortunate of our city, and that will not change. Your vote's your voice, so on September 3rd, make sure that you're having a voice in your government, and if you're going to complain, step up and make a difference, and that's what I've done. I've come out, I've been at the meetings, I've been at the CRA meetings, and I've done my homework to be able to represent you, the voters.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out, and thank you, H. Cola, for sponsoring it, and thank you, fellow candidates, for stepping up to run for office. I feel like we have to cut spending. It's not something that I like doing. I don't like talking about cutting anybody's job, but I believe we do need to reduce salaries and spending. But some of the things are just reducing legal bills, for example. We were budgeting over $100,000 for legal bills. We've been budgeting $30,000 for a lobbyist. So I think there's ways we can save money that aren't going to hurt anybody in the community, that will just put us in a better financial position. But let me just tell you one story from today. I also work part-time in the tourism industry at St. Georgiana Lighthouse. I'm amazed at the number of people that visit us. Today I had visitors from Poland. I've had visitors from Australia, China, all of Europe, Alaska. So we have a tremendous economic boom happening with the tourism here, that if we manage it properly and start to reinvest in the seafood industry and the Hill neighborhood, we can make the whole city stronger. I think we can come out successful.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's give our candidates for mayor a round of applause. Thank you, candidates.
We want to remind everybody that the supervisor of elections office is in the back. You can still register to vote. If you have not done so yet, we moved them out to the hallway for space sake. Those guys that brought literature for their campaign is also in the hallway, so please stop by and pick it up. We're going to be done in a second or two, but you can remain for a while and talk to somebody if you want to, but we're officially done. We want to thank you all so much for the tremendous support for this forum. We thank all of our candidates for seats. Please note that on the program we had a switch up for the seat 1 and 2. Seat 1 is Desperate George, Barry Hand, George Martin, Luis Ramon, Valenzuela Lopez. And seat 2 is Adrian Elliott and Torben Madison. We apologize for that. And then, of course, the ones for Mayor, Kevin Begos, Amy Rowland, and Valentina Webb. Have you been informed tonight? Okay. So make your vote. You're informed now. Make an educated vote for the ones you feel are the very best ones for our city. Okay? The very best ones for our city. I'm sorry, Amy Rowland. I taught her in 3rd grade, so I'm sorry. Amy Rowland Hersey. I apologize for that. H-Cola thanks you all for supporting this event. So big thanks to the SOE office for Rihanna and her staff. Well, I'm sorry. The staff plus Rihanna. And big thanks to you. So as you leave, if you don't mind, stack some chairs up, okay? Remember the dates. Absentee ballots are mailed out now. Early voting is 24